You're listening to Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. Comics, television, movies, and more. If it impacts fan culture, we have something to say about it. And now, your hosts, Michael, Jordan, Cliff, and Seth.
And we are back one more time. It's your friends at Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. My name's Jordan Lowe.
I'm Cliff Barnes.
I'm Seth.
And excitedly back, the illustrious Michael Cave.
Oh yeah, Michael's here.
He stuck around, everybody. Michael came back again to join us. One of the founding four, the Fantastic Four of KPP. How are you doing, Michael?
I am just feeling the love from Seth over here. It's radiating over here so deeply that he's so excited to have me back on here again.
I had some
It's
notes.
like we're a family or something.
I had some notes because I had listened to that episode that I left early.
Yeah.
I was I took some notes like what comments, and one of them on here is tough Michael. When you talk about the Teenage Mutant
Ninja Turtle episode.
Oh yeah, I guess this would be your chance.
What did you think about the format?
And the time is back.
Yep, time's up. My other comments were, I don't hate Alex Ross.
Yes, you do.
Everything else he said was right, but some of my favorite covers are Alex Ross covers. I just don't like Fat the Tick, Captain America. Yes, Cliff should buy the toys that he was going to buy, the He-Man things. I vote yes, buy it all. Set up some sort of catalog thing.
Yeah, my own catalog, just for me to look at.
That'd be awesome. You could do like George Costanza poses through it.
The Cliffmas Wish Book.
Yes. Let's see. Well, Jared Lowe had a hot take online, and Cliff commented on it, and we need to discuss it.
Hey, Jared and I are on the same page.
Jared, if I recall, his original take was that Karate Kid 2 is better than Karate Kid 1. Okay, that's
nonsense.
I think I remember that right. And I thought that's at least a plausible thing. Like I like both those movies. I prefer the first one, but I also love the second one.
2 is great. Where he goes to Japan, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he goes slide. You know, the guy slides down the thing and comes and he honks the nose. And it's all great. And drums. It's amazing.
Cooper watched it. Both of them recently back to back, and I can confirm I still don't like them.
Okay, that's fine. But he was saying because Cobra Kai hit Netflix and saying, is this even better than no.
Yes.
Let's all settle down. It is a fine show. I like the show. I'm glad they did it. It's better than I thought it was going to be. I went to the premiere thing where they showed Karate Kid in the theater, and then they showed the first couple episodes of Cobra Kai a couple years ago. It was like, it was great. I preferred the first season to the second season, but the second season was still good. But I think the kid actors are not very good.
My problem isn't so much the kid actors. My problem is the Ralph Macchio actor.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just I don't know what it is about him.
You mean in the original movie?
In all of it.
All of it? You just don't like Daniel LaRusso?
I don't. I am Team Johnny over here, and I'm like, that's why I like Cobra Kai better.
Yeah, because he's winning or whatever. He's the more likable character in this.
He's the central character.
See, this is why I don't really want to have the argument, because I like all of it.
Yeah.
But I don't like somebody to say that I don't mind him throwing it out that it is also really good. I don't like you commenting definitely better than the movies. That was where that stuck in my craw.
Without a doubt. Definitely.
Yeah, that's
better.
like you're doubling down. Jordan.
You don't like declarative statements here.
Yeah, I don't dig that. You could say it's really great, but
I don't think it's great. But I definitely think it's better than the movies.
I happen to know it's in Jordan's top 10 movies.
It is.
But
I look at the show like I look at the next Karate Kid, where I ignore the next Karate Kid the way I ignore the teenagers on this show. Like I only want to watch Johnny on this show. So anytime the teenagers are on screen, I don't care.
Daniel LaRusso's daughter is awful. I don't want to pick, but as far as like it doesn't compare to the movie, her ability to act, because she anticipates everything she knows she has to do. She'll turn around, she'll like slow down and turn around like when someone grabs her arm. It's just bad act. But it's fine for what it is. It's not the Karate Kid. So that's it.
Well, if we're talking listener feedback, we got a couple messages from Jesse. He threw in a suggestion for your time travel reading, The Time Patrol by Paul Anderson.
Oh, yeah? Hold on just 1 second.
He threw out a suggestion for you. Speaking of anticipating, here we are anticipating what Seth just might do. What? Took your suggestion.
Well, surprise here for Jesse. I purchased The Time Patrol. It will be reviewed later.
I hope he is Paul Anderson. He wrote that book years ago.
Yeah.
So you got to say one of it.
No, he wrote it a few years from now.
Whoa.
Yeah, I bought it as soon as he suggested it. It's like I could order it for like $4, so I did. I read
He also threw out his TV family would be The Middle. Where we were doing what would our TV family be?
What would your TV family be, Michael?
That would be Married with Children.
Okay. Just a little update, guys.
Oh, he bought a toy.
Oh my.
Yes.
Sky Sled.
That's all I've found so far.
Where'd you get it?
Walmart. It's in a Walmart exclusive. But
sweet.
Yeah, me and some other middle-aged guy were like the only two dudes in the toy aisle that day, because we had both discovered off the website that they were in stock, and they had 3 of them, and I was standing there, and he kind of come up behind me and reached over, not around, over,
reached under,
and picked one
leg
up.
sweep.
Yeah, and I was like, I better get one, or he's gonna buy them all. So
there was quite an uproar about the G.I. Joe new figures that came out.
Yeah,
they were supposed to be like a early that Target thing. They were supposed to be an early release, and that none of the Target stores knew about it, and so all these hardcore fans showed up like on the 1st of August when you were supposed to be able to buy it, and they're like, no, it's not supposed to come out for a couple weeks. And they're like showing them the press releases and stuff, and so then they can't live there, so they leave, and then they randomly put them out in all the Targets, and nobody got any of them except scalpers.
Yeah,
it's a terrible system. It's a terrible system.
Those G.I. Joe figures, those retro ones. Are you talking about the larger ones, or are you talking about the either way? The larger ones look nice. The larger ones look nice. Pretty cool. The little small ones, not so great. So
yeah, it must be the bigger ones then, because they look really nice. But it just is irritating that fans cannot get a hold of anything, and they do all these online things, like a lot of these conventions that you can go buy exclusive things that they're not having the conventions now. So they do the online stuff and the high release, but it always screws up.
Yeah,
nobody can get it. It's like, just do some sort of pre-order. Let people just order it, then how many you got to make.
I don't know why distribution is such a hard thing, especially for Hasbro. Like, they cannot.
I think there's some sort of deal, like you can only I think some of this licensed stuff, you can only make so much of it. Like, you only have deals to make a certain amount of it. That's where they have a problem. But I think you say, how much interest can we get? Let's do a pre-order, and then we'll see how much they'll let us make, knowing how many people want it.
Well, I think what you're describing HasLab. Like, it's like a GoFundMe for toys almost. And that, some people really like that, and other people do it because they want to feel like they did when they were 8 years old, and they want to walk down that toy aisle and have the excitement of a whole wall full of figures or whatever hanging on those pegs that they can rummage through, and they find the one they want and do all that without somebody coming up and buying them all, or they get one box in a damn store for, hundreds of people that want them.
It's annoying.
It is.
All right. The last note I had was Jordan talked about some customers that came in and were interested in his field of knowledge. And I also heard that you had another customer come in recently that was interested in your field of knowledge about some sort of card.
Star Wars cards?
Yeah. You were wishing for more people that wanted to hear your thoughts.
No, my last story was very uplifting. This is not that. A gentleman with no shirt, no mask,
right?
Some teeth, had Star Wars cards. He said they're from 1971.
6 years
what they
before
were.
Star Wars.
Right. He said multiple times, now these are from 1971, and they're made of cardboard. It's like, oh, cardboard. Wow, that's what they made cards out of. And he just needed to know what they're worth, where he could sell them, what he could do with them. I said, I have no idea. I have no knowledge. I've never dealt in cards. I have no knowledge. Well, what should I do? What about this store? I don't know. What are their hours? I don't know. Do you think they'd buy them? I don't know. As he's leaning over my counter, around my bubble.
Yes.
Oh, and he said he couldn't hear what I was saying until I took my own mask off, because he had to read my lips because he was so deaf. So I risked my life to help that gentleman.
Did he have the C-3PO card? Cliff wanted to know if he had the one with the
dangling participle.
Yeah. Oh my. He didn't have it, huh?
Yeah, he probably didn't have that one. They were from 1971. That one was from 1977. So, well, I hope he found a buyer, and I hope
he saw one on eBay for $7,000. So
what?
That's his
wow, $7,000.
That's his ballpark ground floor figure.
I can't believe you didn't buy that.
Yeah,
you could.
He'd have took half of that.
Yeah, he would have cut you a deal.
Hey, let's do just out of the blue here. Let's do one of these time book things.
It's just a jump to the left. With your hands on your hips.
I'll review a time book, and then we'll start talking about some comics. I read a book. We'll do a book instead of a comic this time.
Don't brag about it.
Yeah, this is a book with no pictures. Sorry. And Michael turned his chair around. He's uninterested in a book with no pictures. It's called... He's leaving.
He's leaving the room.
Do You Realize? By Kevin A. Kuhn. And this is a time travel book from 2016 that it had some good reviews on Amazon, and I thought I'll try it out. I've read, several things now, and I was just looking for anything reviewed well. This is about a guy that has app on his smartwatch that lets him go relive 10 different days from his life. He can pick any date, and I think it's actually in the last 25 years, but he can pick a date, put it in, and when he wakes up the next day, he is reliving that day. But it's not going to affect anything. It's like a parallel universe type thing. He can relive that day in any fashion. He could go experience something that he didn't get to experience, like some famous day in history or whatever. And 10 different days. So it's a neat idea. Okay. Anything. But this book drove me insane. This is like, I've started getting into reading all these time travel books. Well, guess what? If any first-time author decides to write a book, it's usually some middle-aged guy that likes time travel, and he had a time travel idea, and he's like, I'm echoing on somebody's thing.
Nope, he just didn't mute his mic.
He didn't. Hold on.
Yeah.
He's back.
Hey, are you sure you're not the bunkers, Archie?
What's that?
We heard that actually is that Married with Children? Does he do that also? Because Archie Bunker goes and flushes the toilet, and everybody can hear it. And he comes downstairs.
That's what's funny is I went to go use the bathroom and I was like, I started to, and I was like, oh wait a minute, I have my mic in my ear. So I went out of the room and I put it in the kitchen. And I closed the door thinking that now you guys won't hear that, but obviously you did.
Oh, everything. Yeah, I had to stop because, but
I've heard the local weatherman has a habit of doing that, leaving his mic on when he takes a break.
And the Reds announcers.
Oh,
ooh, too soon. Anyway, this guy wrote this book. It was his first book, and you could tell. I sent some excerpts from it to these guys where it was like every paragraph, every sentence, he had to address the person he was talking to, and they addressed him back. It was a totally unnatural writing. You would never just say someone's name every time you say a sentence to them, Jordan.
Hey Seth. It tried.
It tried.
Did try, Jordan and Michael and Cliff. Anyway, it drove me freaking crazy. And the guy apparently also read some philosophy, so he threw a lot of that in there. And I didn't hate the book, but I hated his writing. So don't read. Do you realize this is the only book, only thing I've ever done an Amazon review of? So it wasn't great.
But was it an interesting enough concept?
Yeah. That's the only reason I finished it, is because I wanted to see what he did with it. I'm not in love with what he did with it, but it was fine. It tried.
Yeah. I'm gonna since we're wrapping that up, I'm gonna share my screen real quick.
Okay.
Some breaking news on here. Can you guys can you see that?
Whoa!
What?
So this is all over the internet. Just tonight as we record this, Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman dies of colon cancer at age 43.
Holy smokes!
Have we confirmed that?
Yeah. Yes, this is. I checked multiple sites, so yeah.
I know there was a lot talking about him dropping weight really quickly.
That's what I almost said something a few weeks ago when I watched the Five Bloods and stuff. I was thinking he's gradually losing weight.
Yeah, I guess that's why. So,
but people were wondering if it was for like a certain role or something, or
wow.
Obviously, he hit it very well.
Yeah. So, that's very unfortunate. So I really liked him, and of course we all liked Black Panther and what he did with that and the Avengers and everything. So
that's crazy.
Not to bring it down, but yeah,
that's kind of shocking. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think do we need to do a one job, or is it just Black Panther?
I think yeah.
This is Jackie Robinson Day, by the way. And he played.
It is Jackie Robinson
It
Day.
is,
Yeah.
He
Wow,
played
that's
Jackie
weird.
Robinson.
Normally in April, but since the baseball season wasn't going on in April, they moved it till August.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't know how to segue out of that.
shook.
Cliff. You've unsegued me.
Sorry.
Let's try and move on.
I had some exciting news, but it's not.
We
that
heard.
cool now. No, it wasn't that. It was something else. Something else premiered today,
Oh,
or is available today.
okay. Well, bring us up. What was
We're just
it?
getting a headache because we said we're going to do a comic book episode and we're 20 minutes in.
Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Oh.
You saw it?
No, not yet. I mean, it just
Okay,
came out
good.
today.
What is that
Moving
available
on.
on? No, what's it available on? Is it Amazon? Is it Voodoo?
It's everything.
Everything.
And
Is
it is at
it
that
$30
sweet price
like-
point.
What
It's
is
that
it?
sweet price point that Seth likes, $20.
Oh, wait.
That's a no for me.
I actually think
I wasn't even going to watch it. I liked Bill and Ted
Mm.
fine. Bogus Journey was even fine. I rewatched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure last year. It was fine, but I wasn't planning on watching this necessarily, and then I'm definitely not going to the theater. I don't think, but it's actually getting some decent reviews. So when it comes out to rent or it's on HBO or something, maybe I'll watch it. I mean, rent like normal price.
Yeah.
You can rent it for $20 or buy it for $25.
Ooh, what a deal.
Good.
Yeah, I saw most. The critics are kind of middle of the road that I saw, but it's like this movie. There's nothing a critic can tell me about this movie. Like this, I love Bill and Ted. I'm gonna love this. It seems like a pretty obvious shift to their kids. Where like if this is a big hit, their kids could go on and do another movie, or do the next generation, Bill and Ted, the next generation.
I feel like
This isn't your father's Bill and Ted.
Keanu can do no wrong at the box office right now anyways. Anyways, you got some comic stuff. Let's do comics.
How can you read this? There's no pictures.
Well, some people use their imagination.
Well, I must hurry back to my comic book store where I dispense the insults rather than absorb them.
Happens all the time. Read a comic book, okay?
All right. First out of the box, local author, celebrity, friend of the podcast, Mr. James Patrick, the writer, had his new book solicited through Aftershock Comics. It's coming out November 25th. It's a 4-issue miniseries called The Kaiju Score. So just a great hook. Like selling a comic book, it's like the elevator pitch. Can you explain it in 10 seconds? And this is like the perfect one. A Quentin Tarantino film taking place in some corner of a Godzilla movie. So it is, a heist film. They're going to steal this rare art. And the best time to do it is when these giant kaiju are rising out of the sea and the whole city is distracted. So that is a very easy sell for people who like either of those genres. It's just a great hook. It's easy to imagine. And probably because of that reason, huge news, it's already got a movie deal.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Announced just this week, 2 months before the book has even hit the shelves, Sony Pictures. This is no fly-by-night operation.
I've heard
right?
of them. I've heard of them.
Big deal. They acquired the rights in a, quote, competitive situation. So I know a little bit more than was in the press releases. I don't know what I'm allowed to say and not say, but there were other people involved. I know one of them rhymes with Metch Mix.
Is that the Jewish version? Minch Mix?
Yeah. I think there are a few other studios involved. The Sony got the producer, the Escape artists are the producing, the before every movie, a shingle comes up that has so Escape Artists through Sony Pictures. They've been around. Their first movie was A Knight's Tale. They made The Equalizer with Denzel Washington, the Magnificent Seven remake. Their most recent one was The Upside, the remake with Bryan Cranston and
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart, right. So, yeah, they're not fooling around. These are Hollywood people with connections and deals getting made. So, there's I actually just talked to him today. It seems now every comic that comes out, there's option deals and there's buzz and talk, but this one seems farther along than that. It happened very fast, but there's already like things in the works and higher ups, getting things going. So it doesn't look like one of those deals where the option's going to sit around for a few years and it might move between here and there. So nothing's a done deal, especially in Hollywood. But this seems as close as a done deal as I've seen on a situation like this. So congratulations, James. I'm hyped to read the book for sure, but we get a movie out of it. That's way cool as well.
Yeah.
How many issues is the book supposed to be?
It should be 4 issues.
Cool.
And the artist is Rim Brew.
Yeah, there was some. We've seen some art from it. It looks great.
Yeah,
that's just amazing news.
And I may or may not have delivered a package to the location of where Mr. James Patrick lives.
Wow. Freaking.
We know that guy's
Don't fly too
mailman.
close to the sun, Icarus.
It was kind of funny. I was like, because I was doing, they're called bumps where you do your route and then you have to take part of someone else's route. And I was doing a bump on this route that I didn't know. And I just, because he didn't have any mail, he just had a package. And I looked down and I was like, hey, I know that person. So I now know where he lives.
I thought doing a bump was when you took a snort of coke halfway through your route.
Gives you your second...
That's that speedy delivery.
Yeah.
All right, so from good news to bad news, our last episode we talked a lot about DC fandom. Well, 2 weeks before that happened, we had the DC bloodbath.
I won't do it.
No, nobody needs it.
I do.
All right, the LA Times headline, quote, upended by the coronavirus and competing streamers, Warner Media slashes 600 workers. All right, so this is written kind of like a Star Wars crawl. It's a period of turmoil in the 2 years since AT&T acquired Warner's. The evil empire has had shakeups. They've had 2 different management teams come in and come out. Movies have been delayed. TV productions have been shut down with all the the pandemic stuff. There's never been more streaming competition, and their silver bullet, the thing that was going to save them, was HBO Max, and it's had kind of a bumpy. It had a bumpy rollout and a very sluggish start, and not the number of subscribers they thought they would have. Whereas so like Disney beat its projections immediately.
Yeah,
HBO is not there. So LA Times, quote, AT&T is struggling to realize the potential of its high-profile investments in the last 5 years. Takeovers that left the company burdened with more than $160 billion in debt. They spent nearly $50 billion on DirecTV, and that became a fiasco. And then they spent $85 billion on Time Warner. And while it's not a fiasco, it could be heading in that direction. So something had to be done, and the golden goose right now is the streaming stuff. HBO Max, just exactly what like Disney and Disney Plus. So if that's all that matters, everything else has got to be cut. And so they cut to the bone. So the bulk of the cuts were all from the Warner Brothers studio in Burbank, TV production and movie staff. But it was serious enough at DC Comics arm, which is, I don't know where on the totem pole the comics rank, but I'm guessing it's
pretty
clear
low
at the bottom. So the first few like tweets and things that came out that referenced this called it a bloodbath, and that's kind of the name it took on. Like, oh, the bloodbath this weekend, and news about the bloodbath. So we're looking at as many as 1/3 of their editorial staff has been laid off, which is almost an entire level of executives. DC editorial is now headed up by the interim team of Marie Javins and Michelle Wells. So 2 women in charge of DC for the first time in 80 years. And they promoted from within. They had both had success. One of them had worked on like the Young Readers line, and their sales had been pretty strong. And Marie Javins has been really well liked within the company. So people seem enthusiastic, and they think it might not be an interim situation. They might stick because they get results and people seem to like them. And they're supposed to be hiring a new business manager to run the publishing side of things, said to come from, quote, the world of esports. So they're going to hire an outsider who's, more of just the business side of things, running the numbers and stuff. So it was a couple days of nobody knowing very much and just rumors coming out. So finally there was an interview with Jim Lee on The Hollywood Reporter, who he's still around. He's one of the few at the top. And I didn't write down all the names, Bob Harris and all these names that got fired, because most fans don't know the names. You might read it, in the fine print on the inside of the cover, but it was it was a lot of people at a lot of top positions. So, there was a lot of sky is falling. DC is getting out of the comic game, and everything's terrible. So Jim Lee came out and said, quote, "I don't think they want to stop us from publishing comics." So that's a strong. I don't think they want to stop us from publishing comics. Comics serve a lot of different purposes, and one of them, it's a great way to incubate ideas and creating the next great franchises. We want to continue that. Why would you want to stop that? Why would you want to stop creating great content that could be used across the greater enterprise? So that's meant to kind of bolster me, but just calling it an enterprise, and we can't stop making comics because then we couldn't make movies and TV shows. Like, I don't know. To me, that doesn't make me feel great.
Yes,
but, I mean,
so much has happened in the last couple weeks. It's been nuts.
So there was one bright note. There was no, quote, pencils down notice. So no one got technically, fired off a job, or a book got canceled midstream. So the idea was a lot of these books, they've already canceled a number of titles. Young Justice was canceled, which is one of my best sellers. Teen Titans, Hellblazer, which just got off the ground. That's probably my favorite book going right now, Hellblazer. Hawkman, Suicide Squad. But a lot of those, it seems like we're kind of at the end of an arc, or where this generation thing was going to start, this 5G thing. Like when Batman hit 100, it was going to go to 5G, and they were going to introduce the new Luke Fox Batman. So when Dan Didio got fired and the 5G stuff went out the window, it seems like they hadn't figured out what the next thing was for it.
And think about how much money they lost on that, the whole 5G fiasco, because they had so many books that were already in development, and all the money that was spent getting that off the ground to just completely wipe it out.
And that was their free comic book this year, was supposed to be that as well. So DC just didn't have a free comic book, because I'm sure it was already drawn and printed.
But I mean, this has happened. I just keep thinking of the history of Marvel that I was listening to, another audible book that I've listened to quite a few times lately. But there's several times where Marvel basically laid off most of its staff, where it was just a few people to come back to, full staff. It's just right. And it always has to do with people buying businesses and thinking they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I was definitely flashing back to that Marvel book I had just read about the bankruptcy in the 90s. It all felt very similar to that. So Jim Lee says, quote, "We are still in the business of publishing comics. We're cutting our line in the name of higher quality. Comics are still central to the DC brand. Everyone involved with the company is behind that." So that's a little more like oomph to say, yes, it's all going. But still, that doesn't stop what people think is happening or are prognosticating might be happening. So officially, DC Universe has merged with HBO Max, and all the original content is going there. All the other elements, they're keeping them, but they're going to be, all the comics, they made all those little talk shows and interview segments. Those are going to be on something else that hasn't been announced yet. But there's going to be some, people think it might be similar like Marvel Unlimited, where you pay a subscription fee and you can read all the old comics, but who knows? But yeah, you're not gonna read comics on HBO Max. It'll have to be it'll still be its own thing. DC Direct, the toy line, statue line, collectibles line, it is changing. It sounds like they're going to a straight licensing model, which, like I said in the Marvel book, why pay to produce this stuff when you can just send it to Hasbro or Mattel or somewhere else, and they'll do it
Todd
for you.
McFarlane's been making their figures for a while.
So probably a higher price point because they're going to have to pay, somebody else is going to have to pay licensing fees for it. So DC will no longer be making their own merchandise. The rumor is Black Label might be being phased out, which was the thing that took over Vertigo. That phased out Vertigo as the mature readers line. That it got started off on the wrong foot. That brand new lady who was hired in, her first week on the job was the Batman Damned controversy and Naked Batman and all the problems they had from there. So she has not been a fan of Black Label from the start. So there's the thought that they might just be getting rid of that as well.
Now, has the label, has it been successful, as a brand?
Fairly well. The books, the cover prices on them are much higher than normal. They're $4.99, $5.99, $6.99 sometimes, but they're nice packages. They have some pretty top creators. But yeah, I'm not selling what I do on a Batman book, or even Young Justice is outselling any of those books. But I don't know, they're more the prestige line. But I guess they don't feel like they need that. But so yeah, it's obvious. In all sectors, the emphasis is on streaming. You have to have your own streaming service. You have to have the biggest one you have, and you have to have as many eyeballs on it as you can. So that should be obvious. That should have been obvious months ago. So something had to happen. The business plans were going to change. That was just inevitable. And it said, even if you don't care who the editor of a book is, this is gonna have an impact. And the takes from the beginning, there were takes like, oh yep, you hire Brian Bendis, that's what you get. It's going to tank the whole thing. People who just don't like this one writer thinks that's what hurt DC. Or you get the trolls who, oh yeah, when you get woke, you go broke. That idea when you try to be inclusive and have diversity, people stop buying your book. So it's bigger than that. It's bigger than individual things being published. It's at a much higher level. So I don't know. Does this pave the way for DC to license out their comics even? We don't know. I've been kind of Chicken Little crying that for years now that could happen, and it seems it's never been more realistic. But there's no indication yet that's happening. As far as them just stopping altogether.
Back in the 80s, that almost happened again. In that book I was listening to, they talked about how DC was going to let Marvel license 7 of their books. It was Superman line was one of them. But the deal fell apart at the last minute. So it's weird. It's a lot of it seems just like history's repeating itself as it moves on to whatever's going to come next,
but on a much bigger scale with a lot more money involved. Comics always used to get left alone because they weren't that profitable, but now there's billions of dollars on the line, so you can't ignore them. So I don't know. Jim Lee mentioned they're going to invest heavily in digital, and he thinks that's, again, an easy way to get new readers without the cost involved of, producing the books, and then print things like they did the Injustice books, or those ones that are digital first and then get printed later. So they're doubling down on digital. They're doubling down on the young reader markets, trying to get things, in schools and libraries, and like the Walmart type books with, mass market things, reprints and cheap mass market things you can find. So
I thought that was going to be part of the appeal of DC Universe, having all those digital comics available whenever you want them. And I mean, they have a lot on there, but the whole platform's kind of been a failure. I mean, we see all their original shows already moving over to HBO Max.
Well, like we said before, you kind of already have to be a DC fan to get on that. Like, who are you attracting new readers to these books?
Mm-hmm.
Through a subscription service you have to pay for just to get the DC stuff. I don't know if that's a successful expanding strategy.
Well, it like what you're saying is it keeps referring to the mass market. It's not mentioning anything about, comic book shops used to be the bread and butter of the industry. That's what made Marvel highly profitable in the 80s, and nothing is mentioned like what we're going to do about things of that nature. It's just all about like you're saying, the millions of dollars of bigger businesses of how can we get mass appeal, and not worrying about who they're basically screwing over.
That is the fan and retailer sort of worst case scenario. That yes, the direct market comic shops are just left behind and ignored. And okay, they might print out a few things just to keep the IP up, just to keep the copyrights valid, and just to put out a few Batman titles and stuff, and then everything else is something else. So that's the fear, which I might have years ago said was irrational, but today I don't know. I don't know how irrational that is. But it does kind of segue nicely to my other story that I was looking at before this all broke, was the 2019 book scan results. Now, I did this last year. I was very excited about it, and I don't know that I got you guys as excited.
Hype us up. Let's do it.
Book scan. All right. So there's a retailer named Brian Hibbs from San Francisco, and every year he crunches the numbers. It's on.
Oh yeah, I remember this epic fail.
So, comicsbeat.com. I streamlined.
He's gonna blow our minds.
I streamlined it a little this year. All right, so BookScan is what reports sales at bookstores. Now it's interesting because it reports the sell-through sales, not the sell-to. So in comic shops, we can look and see what Diamond sold, but we only know what they sold to shops. Did those books ever sell at the shop, or are they still sitting on shelves? We have no idea. We just don't know. So this
unknowable.
Is right. It is unknowable.
Are you gonna tell us?
I'm gonna tell you the bookstore sales.
Oh, okay.
All right. So BookScan,
buckle up.
This is an exact number of actual sales data, which comics for years have never really had. So it doesn't count library sales, book fairs, schools, or comic shops. So this is just the mainstream of the mainstream. This is
no Dogman.
Oh, it's all Dogman.
Oh, it's all
2 years in a row.
Yeah. So this is what is selling in bookstores to the most mainstream customer, not us as customers in comic shops. All right. So good news. This is the best year of comic sales in 15 years of data. The market has more than doubled since 2014. All right. So, and we're looking at graphic novels here. We're not talking individual comics. These are all collected editions. So 2017, there were 10.3 million graphic novels sold at $154 million. 2018, up a little bit to 11.8 million, up 14%. And 2019, up 32% to 15.5 million. Dollar value up 36%, 226 million. So in 1 year difference, sales have gone up 32%. But the bad news of that is it's still largely the hit comics that are driving the business. Mm-hmm. There's a very small number of books that sell huge numbers. The average book sold about 600 copies. So there's it's very front-loaded with the numbers. All right, so here comes the charts.
Here comes. Whoa.
All right, so the top 20
pie chart.
The top 20 sold. 18 of the 20 are young reader books. Dogman, the Raina Telgemeier, like Guts, Smile, Drama, Ghosts. These are books comic fans don't know what they are.
Right.
Or if maybe their kids have read them. The only adult ones on the list were Strange Planet, the collection of the web comics, the two little aliens who talk. You've seen it. Nathan Pyle, I think his name is. You've seen it on Facebook, I'm sure, of like, going through a drive-through. It's like, I will check the bag of goods or whatever. Like it's about how aliens talk to each other. So not a standard comic book. And the other one is manga, My Hero Academia Volume 1. So of the top 20, nothing you would consider a mainstream comic book. The first Marvel or DC book is number 36 on the list, and it's Watchmen from 1986.
Yeah.
And the 8 volumes of Dogman on the list represent 16% of all comics sold. So every comic sold in a bookstore, 16% of them were from the Dogman series.
I believe that.
You know about Dogman? You've seen Dogman?
Yeah, because we've bought several books for Enzo that features Dogman, and I think Jake likes Dogman too.
Who doesn't?
The author, it's Dave Pilkey, the guy who did Captain Underpants.
Yeah,
which was a huge hit in the kid market.
Yeah. It's funny that this is being brought up because I was actually going to talk to Jordan Lowe about this, about a Serpro Comics like adapting Heroic 9.0 to that kind of format.
Oh, you heard it here first.
All Sony.
It's what sells. So nothing on this top list is anything.
How is there no Dogman movie?
It took them a while to get the Captain Underpants movie, but they finally did. All right, so none of these are created with the direct market in mind. None of these authors are like, I got to get my book into a comic shop. That's just not what these are. And only 7 of the top 20 appear in the top 500 bestsellers in the direct market.
Those are the kind of stats that keep them glued to the screen.
So just think about that. Of the top 20 comics sold in America, or maybe the world. I think it's the whole world. Let's call it the world. 13 of the best-selling comics in the world aren't in the top 500 bestsellers in comic shops. How is that possible?
You're doing it wrong.
How is it possible?
How is that? He says he lies. That I feel like we know what he says in bed at night, lying awake. How is that possible?
So the
waking up in the middle of the night in cold sweats.
In comic shops, the best-selling of one of these Scholastic hits, Guts, the young female-friendly from Raina Telgemeier, it is at number 256 in the direct market, sold just over 3,000 copies. So the best-selling, all-age, kid-friendly thing that the kids are beating down the doors for is at number 256 on our sales list. So the best-selling Dogman Brawl of the Wild barely registers. It's at number 441, sold 2,200 copies. So there's the world of the comic shop direct market and the world of what everyone else on the planet is reading are two completely different markets. And I don't know why that's not been bridged. So I don't know if you'll be able to see my pie chart here, but this is the chart of all the quote-unquote Western publishers. This is not counting the manga publishers. So there are 1,500 publishers listed as having made a sale, but only 14 managed to capture a market of more than 1%. So it's really these are the 14 biggest publishers in the world. All right. So Scholastic has 40% of the market.
Yep.
Scholastic is the big blue mark here, light blue.
Yes.
All right. See these tiny little slivers, 8% and 6%, DC and Marvel. So when you think comics, you think DC and Marvel, right?
Right.
When you look at the direct market sales, Marvel always had like 40%, DC had probably 35%, and they took up most of the pie. But in the real world, quote unquote, this is all DC and Marvel get. And down here, the tiny little slivers, Dark Horse and Image. Just tiny little Image and Dark Horse.
So is this the main reason why DC has been pushing all the young reader books that they've been doing?
Yeah, because there's huge sales to be had.
I'm glad these two are paying attention.
Well, I had my pie chart.
I'll throw my second pie chart out here, all right? So here's the distributors pie chart. So the distributors who publish graphic novels, Scholastic Books, Simon & Schuster, Penguin, Macmillan, HarperCollins. Diamond has 4% of the comic book market. The little green sliver is Diamond. Again, when you think comic books, if you shop at comic stores, Diamond, up till 3 months ago, was a monopoly. That would be the whole pie chart, is what's in a comic store. In mainstream America, Diamond is this. They are a drop in the bucket. Next to nothing.
Crazy.
So,
As he rubs his head. It's like, oh.
You got to figure out how to get into school
So
shows.
you made no headway in the years, basically what you're saying.
Again, sales are up, but they're up elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
People are buying lots of comics and graphic novels, but it's not through comic stores.
Wow.
And I won't go through everything, but they
You need
did
to put up a Dogman sign.
Yeah.
Like
I got
20 by
Dogman.
20 on the front of the building.
Window.
No, it is actually funny. Kids will come in, their parents will bring them in, they'll go over to the kids section. It's like, whoa, Dogman, have you read that one? Yeah, I read that one. Like, kids have already, they're on top of it. They got it from their library or they picked it up at a book fair or something. So yeah, the number one publisher in the world, Scholastic, 40% market share. We talked about that. They are the elephant in the room. The number 6 publisher was DC, who used to be number 1 until Scholastic, and they were number 2 until last year. And they dropped the number 9 last year, and recovered to number 6 this year. So, they had 33 total titles in the top 750. So the top 10, their bestseller was the new printing of Watchmen that came out right before the show premiered. So you can see there's a little boost in Watchmen readership. Their number 2 seller was Teen Titans Raven, which was a young reader. The cover of it was a young raven that looked like a young tween girl. Like, it looked like a YA graphic novel. Number 3 was the previous printing of Watchmen. Number 4 was Batman White Knight. So that's the newest, mainstream book on the list. 5 was V for Vendetta. 6 was the Watchmen hardcover. 7 was Killing Joke. 8 was the Batman Detective 80 Years of Batman hardcover. 9 was the Batman Who Laughs trade, and 10 was the Batman Damned trade. And they only had 4 other books that sold over 10,000. Sandman, Batman The Long Halloween, Dark Knight Returns, and Mr. Miracle. So, yeah, DC used to have the best backlist of stuff, all the Vertigo books, all those evergreen titles that sold and sold and sold for years. And it's just not keeping up. Not keeping up anymore. Right after them, number 7 was Dark Horse. They had the same number of titles in the top 750. They had 33 titles that were bestsellers. Number 1 was Umbrella Academy. They sold all 3 volumes of the Umbrella Academy. They have Minecraft books, Stranger Things, the Critical Role graphic novel, Vox Machina.
Machina.
So,
I was going to tell. That reminds me. I was in there the other day, and you did not remind me you had these free freaking comics, free comic book day comics. I've been in there. Do you still have copies of any of that stuff?
Yeah, I think you walked past the table, but you just didn't.
You have to baby me. I have a mask on. My vision is impaired.
Your peripheral vision, you're just bumping into stuff.
I can't smell them.
Cooper told me he called me a couple nights ago, and he to let me know he was at Walmart, and I was like, okay. He's like, well, let me tell you this. Our local Walmart has a greeter stationed outside the building to make sure everyone entering has a mask on. So he said as they were going in, there was a lady in front of them. She had no mask. So she gets stopped by the person at the door, and she says, well, ma'am, you have to wear a mask inside. And the lady says, oh, it's okay. My glaucoma's acting up.
That's if you have a medical condition, you don't have to, but
doesn't have to do anything with this area here,
right.
Up here.
Anyway,
so number 9 publisher was Image. Again, has fallen. Only 26 titles in the top 750.
Walking Dead among them.
The number 1 seller was The Walking Dead Compendium Volume 4, which is the final collection of Walking Dead books. And with no new Walking Dead anymore, no new saga coming out, they really need a big hit in that serialized fashion that keeps people coming back and reading. They're not doing so hot. And of course, number 10, bringing in the rear, Marvel. 27 titles in the top 750. It's their worst performance since 2012. Number 1, again, from last year, still the Infinity Gauntlet. Numbers 2 and 3 were Spider-Verse, like these little kid-friendly digests about Spider-Man and Miles Morales. 4 is Ms. Marvel, the book aimed at tween girls. Number 5, Darth Vader, mainstream hit. Number 6, Spidey, freshman year, aimed at kids. Number 7, The House and Powers of X hardcover. So again, kind of the first new sort of mainstream book is number 7. Number 8, another Spider-Man book for kids, Superhero Adventures. Number 9 was Miles Morales, Volume 1. And number 10, Black Panther, Volume 1. So again, it's still movies and cartoons and things driving all these sales. So
now, when you said the Infinity Gauntlet, which version of that is that? Like you're talking the.
Yeah, it was the original. When the last 2 movies came out, that had huge sales last year, and it's still continued even after Endgame. So that is my yearly tale of befuddlement of how the comic industry works. Do with it what you will.
Get out there and
everything coming up, Dogman.
Yeah, I got to read some Dogman.
Or you could see the trends like we did and all ages comics and know the future. Pro comics.
I got to ask Michael about his chair.
My gamer chair?
Does it have a harness? I noticed when you got up and walked away, there
straps.
seemed to be some strap. Do you strap into that chair?
There's like a head. There's a head pillow that you can put on there, and it's adjustable.
Okay. But yeah.
Yeah, this is for the lumbar support. Like you can move that up and down. There's like a little pillow there.
Okay.
That was a Sparco racing seat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's nice because you have like the recline, like it kicks out.
Please, Grandma. Please. Please.
There's one. That's your dollar's worth.
Did I show too much?
Yeah, you don't follow up the kid-friendly list.
With the crotch shot.
Wow.
I'm so glad I asked about the chair.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Anyone read any good comics lately? If you want to end on a good
I did.
You read a good comic?
Yes.
Was it Dogman?
No.
Was it by Bendis?
No, it was by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. The new Lock and Key 3-issue miniseries, which will lead into the next miniseries. Hell and Gone is going to be Sandman Lock and Key crossover, but currently they're doing Impale Battalions Go, and it's a story. They've had some. They had the main Lock and Key series, but there were some just separate Lock and Key stories because the Locke family has lived in this house for hundreds of years, and they've had some other characters from the past in these other books, and they're revisiting that family, Chamberlain Locke and his son John and daughter and wife, and they it's circa, I don't know when it's. Is it supposed to be set in 1915 or what?
Yeah, it's 1915.
Yeah. And John was always headstrong for the action, and previously when he's shown up in Lock and Key, and he wants to go be a part of the war effort. So anyway, without giving away too much, it's just him trying to. He wants to bring the keys, use them for good, to help with the war effort, and he wants to see some action. So I thought it was a really good first issue. What did you think, Jordan? I thought it was really good.
Yeah, it was really solid. I was surprised they're already Easter egging a little bit of the Sandman stuff.
Yeah.
And like they're already setting it up that it's in the same world. So I was not expecting that.
Yeah, they said that that's what they were doing. I follow them both on Twitter, and just today Gabe finished drawing the last page or whatever of the second issue, which I can't believe how close they cut it on stuff like that. I mean, the first issue came out this week, and they're just now finished drawing the second issue. Anyway,
it's just comics. It's just a direct market. Nobody cares.
Yeah, no, it's a sliver.
Just
anyway,
sliver,
that was a
baby.
strong start, and actually, this is the most excited I've seen these guys about their Lock and Key stuff. Like they just keep going back and forth, like how much they think just complimenting each other, but I think it's going to be a really strong story, I guess. So I'm excited.
What are you reading, Michael? Legion.
Yeah, I was gonna say Bendis's Legion of Superheroes, which has been a complete different take on the Legion. The latest revamp. They've now said the son of Superman is the one true Superman that helped form the Legion, or the ideas, concept of them. And now they've gone the route of saying that, spoiler alert, that Mon-El is no longer a Daxamite, but is actually the descendant of Superman. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense with his name being Mon-El. So he's... Something just crawled through closed window, huh?
I sent that through chat so as not to interrupt your train of thought.
It's the cat.
I just saw the window flutter and then a dark shadow jump through your window. I was like, oh, they're after us.
But anyway,
danger scroll.
I didn't know you could do that. I haven't done a whole lot of Zoom. I didn't know if that
tell anyone.
But anyway, to me, it's very reminiscent of Mark Waid's reboot of Legion, where he's trying to see today's technology standards and apply that to the future, like with little tweaks where everyone has a call sign that pops up in front of them, so you automatically know who they are. Little touches like that. Like back in Mark Waid's run, he had it where no one would look at each other. They would look at each other through a screen, and actually looking at someone was unheard of. Just Bendis's interpretation.
Feels like today.
Yeah. But it's you think I would love it because it's a convoluted mess. It's a convoluted mess, but it's entertaining. I like it. It's a unique take.
All right, 2 more quickies. The biggest launches this last few weeks. Michael, did you read? You're reading Hulk in the '90s. Did you read Future Imperfect in 1993?
Yes, I got that. Came out as like a 2-issue graphic. Well, yeah. I don't know if you'd call it graphic novel, but it was prestige format. George Perez and Peter David.
Yeah, so 1993 they introduced the Maestro, the future version of the Hulk, who became the leader of the world, the evil villain. So we finally, just this week, we launched the 5-issue miniseries explaining how he got that way, which I didn't realize they had never revealed his origin. But Peter David came back to write it. Most of the art is from German Peralta, but they've got Dale Keown doing like the front few pages and the back few pages, whatever that's called, bookending it. So yeah, if you're a Hulk fan, that's a major character in the Hulk mythos that they never knew what happened in the Hulk's life, what tragedy he went through to turn him into an evil villain who would just rule over a wasteland of the world. Pretty solid first issue. I enjoyed it. And then the biggest launch, 3 Jokers. Speaking of waiting for answers.
Yeah. I feel like that's been lingering forever.
Yeah, 2016 Justice League issue 50. So this is just before DC Rebirth. There's a storyline going on called the Dark Side War. Batman ends up in the Mobius chair, the thing that Metron rides around in, and basically has access to all knowledge in the universe. So one of the first things he asks, what's the Joker's true name? It dings, and he goes, no, that's not possible. Cliffhanger, all right? So then when we got to the DC Rebirth issue, it says the chair said there are 3. There are 3 Jokers. So that was one of the biggest exclamation points in that DC Rebirth launch. And how long has that been now? We're going on 4 years now.
4 years?
Yeah, so Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok are back, and they are finally answering this. Apparently, the first issue sold 300,000 copies. It's a $6.99 Black Label prestige book. So, if the comic industry needed a hit right now, this is one for sure. It's trying very hard to be the next Killing Joke or Death in the Family or one of those big monumental stories. And I won't spoil it, but I don't know. The first issue throws some interesting things out there. And the Batman fans I talked to this week were really excited about it. And each issue comes with a collectible playing card.
Ooh.
You can play 3-card Monty when you're done. So each
cardboard?
It is cardboard from 1971. So the first one's got Joker and Batman. The next one will have Joker and Batgirl. And the third one will have Joker and Red Hood. the three main characters in the book. So we got a hit on our hands, everybody.
Now I heard a rumor, but I don't know if I should say it or not about the Red Hood.
Don't say it.
Okay. That answers that question.
But the vague idea is that, yes, there are three Jokers running around: the criminal, the clown, and the comedian. So they've the criminal, the golden age, like, just a thief and a killer, more straightforward gangster. The clown is the silver agey, clown prince of crime, the madcap 1966 Joker. And the comedian is the post-crisis, like, killing joke, homicidal sociopath. So he's had many personalities over the years. Why is that? He's been drawn many different ways. Why does he even look differently sometimes? So this is attempting to answer that. I think the first issue was a pretty solid jump into it. We'll see where it ends up.
Okay.
Comic books.
Yeah. Started off a little rough there, but I feel like it came through.
That would have been under an hour if you guys had just let me go from the beginning. But...
All right, let's put it to rest.
All righty. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Michael, thank you once again for lending us your time. Where can they find
more? Time is money, and money is time.
Profound. Where can they find more about you?
These days, I don't know. That's a very good question. I do still draw comics occasionally. You can find them at www.soprocomics and get t-shirts like this fine, awesome t-shirt.
He's got merch to sell, people.
And we are just a sliver of the sliver, so support our sliver. My name is Jordan Lowe.
I'm Cliff Barnes.
I just, I know by the time you hear this, it may have, it's out of your mind maybe by now, but it's still, I'm just kind of shook by the Chadwick Boseman thing that we just learned this hour, and knowing, it's still so surreal to me that this is, Jackie Robinson Day and Kirby's birthday, and this guy, dies so young, and so goodbye and Wakanda forever.
Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during the podcast are property of copyright holders. All original content is property of www.udownwithkpp.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a comment. Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found. You can connect with us through social media on Facebook, YouTube, at the Ka-Pow Podcast on Twitter, or email the show, Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, at gmail.com. If you really want to go the extra mile, please sign up to be a patron through the Podbean app or our website, www.udownwithkpp.com, to receive special content and early access to some episodes. We are grateful to anyone that chooses to contribute, but please know that most of our content will always remain free, so please continue to like, comment, and share.